Think I'm the one who's like that. Let go that made you
Hi, just thought I'd spend a few minutes with you showing you a Brazilian based song that I have almost completed. There's still a bit of work to do, but the gist of it is all here. So this is my Ableton project, and as you can see, it's not massive. It's got a few tracks. It's got a mixture of very badly named group tracks. So the group tracks, we've got a couple of bass lines, we've got a clap trap, we've got a track, and we've got Hive here, which is a nice VST for for sort of keyboard sounds and synth sounds. We've got hi-hats. I've got the M1, the Korg M1, which is like a piano, and a few other things. I've got a couple of reference tracks here, so I want my song to sound a little bit like the sort of LithuaniaHQ Brazilian bass type of sound that I think is really cool. So let's get cracking. So a few other things I wanted to tell you is we've got also a return track here as well for reverb, and what I do with the return track is put a nice Valhalla vintage verb, put it pretty much almost at the top, and it's got a nice decay sound to it. And then I've got a compressor, and what I'm doing with the compressor is I'm doing a full-on side chain against the vocal track. Okay, the vocal track is these orange tracks. Okay, so I've got one vocal track, which is the main vocal track, and then you can see I've done a lot of cutting and a lot of movement, sort of a lot of cutting and moving around of stuff. And the backing track is basically the same as, so this, what you see here in this sample here is cut and mixed and messed around with and moved around throughout the rest of the song. So I'm using this tiny vocal sample to create an entire song. Some people might think that's boring, but for kind of a dancey, bassy song like this, I think it will do. So I'll let you hear bits and pieces of it as well. And as I said, we've got these two reference tracks, which are quite useful to have. And finally, we've got the master track. And you can see here, just click it on. I'm going to switch the master track off because it's quite CPU intensive and I can't really record the rest of this video with this on. But you can see it's a grouped track, and it's just something I've used in other tracks. It's a very simple mastering chain. So it just comprises of the fab filter, the EQ called Q3, and all I'm doing here, all I've done is I've selected stereo and low cut side just to make sure that there's no stereo frequencies on the low end of the product. I think this is just literally I can move this up and down, but I just took the basic the plugin not the plugin, the actual what's it called, the preset that comes with Pro 3. Then I put a Pro MB in, and I just did that for some. This is also a preset called Mix Bus, called Dynamic Goodness. So this kind of moves, and it's a bit higher here at the higher frequencies. It just kind of moves the track around a bit depending on the flow of the song. Then you've got this thing here called a CLA 7.6 stereo master. This is actually a compressor. So what you can see here with the compressor is a low input, high output attack. It's set at 3, and we've got a very long release. Seems to work really well. And then finally we've got the limiter, which I use, this Ultramax 3. This one's being squashed to shit, really. It's got a -11 and a just a very high ceiling as well, so it's going to be quite loud. So just bearing that in mind, what I tend to do with my songs, so I didn't need to do it with this one, is I will put a utility in front of every song, because pre-master, let's switch the master off, pre-master you want the input to not clip. So the reason I do that, and I haven't, as I said, I haven't done it here, the reason I normally do that is because any of these effects settings could actually bring you to a clip, even if the master limiter does brings it below the clip, so you just don't want any clipping. But I've checked this song and there's actually no clipping anywhere in the song, so it's actually going to be quite a loud song. So with that in mind, let's just crack on a little bit to each track. So the first track is, let's just solo it. Actually, you may want to hear the whole song. Let's just hear the first part of the song.
Think I'm the one who's like that. Let go that made you come back. Think I'm the one who's like that. Think I'm the one who's like that.
Okay, so that's the gist of it, and we'll hear a bit more later. So basically the first track is this. So we've got this, this is literally a sample, but we'll just hear it's a sample of a kick. So you see the way I do my kicks, there's a lot of headroom on the kick. This one was quite well tuned, I didn't need to retranspose it, and there's a CLA on it, once again, just a compressor to stop this, to get some decent pump out of it's got equal sort of levels out of the kick. And then Pro Q3, once again, just make sure there's nothing on the lower frequencies, no stereo signal on the lower frequencies, and that's all I've done. I actually like the sound of the kick. I didn't think it needed much more high end, I just left it. So on the next track, we've got a grouped track, and let's listen to that. So this is kind of, if you put this together with the kick, that's the main part of the track. Okay, so what we've got here in the group track is we have a bass track. So what this is it's actually a simpler with a long, kind of a long sounding tail. It's kind of a long tail bass line. So if you take the sidechain off of it, oops, sorry. If you take the sidechain off of it, it's here. So it's a high bass, but if you take the sidechain off of it, it just leaves loads of space for the kick. And I just use a very basic sidechain. It's not really a sidechain, but it's a Nicky Romero plugin, really cheap, easy to use plugin. It just cuts the signal at this bit here, this part of the signal. Okay, there's loads of other effects on it. I put some reverb on it just to give it a bit of shape and just sort of extra sort of space. Once again, we've got CLA as a compressor on that. We have this Pro Q just killing some of the high end and low end inaudible frequencies, and then we've got another Q killing the stereo band on the low frequencies. And I've actually had to increase the pitch of this, because it sounds pretty terrible just like that. So let's listen to the other bass. So all this is doing is this is the same. This is actually the same one, but it's sorry, it's not the same one. It's a different track, but it's using a sub bass sound from Hive. It's just using a basic sub preset called Subby, and we're just getting the sub sound. So if you hear it together, it sounds kind of like really nice at the high end, but you've got that really cool sub sound. And all that is once again, I've got the kickstart to give the kick space and a compressor just to sort of squash it together. That's it. So that's your bass, and let's hear it with a kick. So you can hear there's loads of space for the kick, and that's exactly what I wanted to achieve on this song. Finally, sort of in the clap, which is kind of your standard normal clap. So let's listen to the clap. I haven't grouped it together. I've been a bit lazy. I've actually finished the song quite quickly. Okay, the clap, it sounds a bit low in volume, but actually what I tend to do is I listen to the whole thing together and I just sort of adjust the volume so it makes sense when you're hearing the whole rhythm section at the same time. Whoops, what have I done? So let's get all of these going together and just go back here. You can hear that's really clean, that clap sound. That's because I have not put any reverb on it because I already had kind of reverb filled. But let me just check, because track number 5 has, no, it doesn't even have any sends going to reverb, so it's just a very short, sharp clap sound. If I'd put reverb on it, it would just sound a bit cloudy sounding. Okay, so that's most of the rhythm section done. And then we have this other section here, which is called Hive, which a Hive is the synth I use. Let's listen to that. So on these Brazilian-based songs, LithuaniaHQ songs, I have there's always a section with nothing, like there's no drums on it. It's just bass. But this bass has, once again, it's got a kickstart sidechain on it. And to give it a bit more teeth, I put a decapitator driver sort of thing to it. I could actually make it growl a bit more, but I didn't want it to be too loud because it would kill the song. So if you listen to it together, and in Hive it's preset, which I've just modified slightly. It's a bass preset. I can find it. I did modify it slightly. I took all the effects out of it. Okay, so you've got that as the secondary bass line. And with these types of songs, you really need the slower, sort of less beat song part, and then you've got the sort of the build up with the drums to build up to the main sort of rhythm part of the song. So the next bit is hats. So hats are interesting. There's actually 2 sets of hats. I'm not sure where the other one is. So it's not doing much. I put the volume down on these hats because oh yeah, okay, so here we go. So we've got very soft hats here, so let's hear what they sound like together. It just gives the song a bit of rhythm. I mean, I could probably add a bit more percussion here, but at this moment no. And then we've got sort of a harder set of hats here, which are a different sample actually. Shouldn't put them on the same track actually, but I did.
Like that. Let go that made you come.
So it's the same as the original chorus, but it's just kind of pushing it along just slightly more as the song builds up. Then we've got the M1. I know this is not in the best order, but this is a piano sound. This is filled with effects, and I'm not sure whether to keep it like that. It's got a compressor here, it's got EQ, quite a few different types of EQs to give it different feeling. M1 has a sort of the M1 synth has a sort of 90s sound to it, and I just used the house piano preset. I keep forgetting that word. That's all nice, and let's go to the next track, which is it's just snare build up. By itself it sounds pretty shit, but if you listen to it together it builds the song up. Yeah, so that didn't sound very good. I think I set the decapitator a bit too high in the settings. Oh, that's no good. But anyway, so that I'll go back and change that later. So yeah, that's that setting there. And then lastly, the vocals.
Think I'm the one who's like
this is a splice vocal. I just downloaded it from Splice.
Let go that made you come back.
And what's really good about splice vocals is if you hover on the sample, you can actually see the name of the sample, the BPM of the sample, and the key of the sample, A sharp minor. And what's good about that is when you warp it, you never get, with vocals, it's really difficult to get decent accuracy, so you can just type in 120 as the warp. Just set, and I've transposed it so it's in A because the rest of the song was in A. I could have left this and just changed the whole song, but it was just easier to transpose this vocal. Actually, bringing it down a notch actually makes the singer sound a bit deeper and a bit more soulful.
Think I'm the one who's like that.
So if we just listen to the vocal by itself,
think I'm the one who's like that.
So it sounds completely different, doesn't it? So we're just bringing it down a notch actually gives it kind of a lower, more soulful sort of feel to it. The other thing I did with the vocals was I passed it through the return, so it's just full on, it's sending it to the return. If it's too much reverb, I could always dial it back, but actually this sort of song, it's kind of sparse and it needs the reverb on the vocal.
Think I'm the one who's like that. Let go that made you come back. Think I'm the one who's like that.
See how it sounds better with the reverb. So you've got all of that goodness there. The other part of this track that's interesting is the rest of it. So that is taken from the same sample pack. Actually, it's not in this sample, it's a different sample. We've just used that. I just repeated the end of it, so the tail of it, to give it some rhythm. And it continues, basically continues like that. On the second vocal track, I've got kind of like for the rhythm of the song, it kind of keeps it going.
Think I'm the one who's like that. Think I'm the one who.
So you kind of have the this kind of rhythmic thing going on once the thing builds up.
Think I'm the one who's like that.
Okay, let's get rid of this track.
Think I'm the one who's like that.
Okay, so finally, to end off this little tutorial, I want to let you hear the. Actually, I'm a little bit scared of playing this in case I get a YouTube strike. But yeah, so basically, this is a song. I mean, clearly, this is going to be a loud song. I'm not going to let you hear the song. There's nothing on the song, but usually what I will do is I'll listen to the reference song and then listen to my song and just see if it sounds different, and then compare and contrast and change and mess around. And that's really it for the song. So if you've got any questions, please put them in the comments. I will also put a link to this song. I think it's just on SoundCloud at the moment, but will probably be released at some point in YouTube, on my YouTube page, and actually in Spotify and other platforms. So, but for now, we'll put the SoundCloud link. So thanks a lot, and hope to hear from you all soon. Bye.